I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's do the roll call here. I'll just go by Mike
Yes.
is here, Vicky, and Brian. Mr. Mark Manley and Martha are not going to appear today, but we still have a quorum. So can we get an approval of today's agenda?
I make a motion to approve today's agenda.
A second?
Second.
Mike? And approval of the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second that.
All right, Mike. All right, so the first order of business here is to appoint a committee chair. Are there any nominations?
That guy over there. Mike.
Okay, I second.
Okay, Mike, are you good with that?
Well, I thought we'd have some discussion. First, I'm a little reluctant because I'm not sure what our schedule's looking at being and what kind of agenda or schedule that the village is looking at for us to produce whatever we're supposed to produce. And frankly, we got some trips planned this spring and early winter and whatnot. And so even though I'm still here and engaged a lot, there's gonna be times where I'm gonna be gone and so I'm not sure what we're looking at as a workload and things like that.
How about Brian?
Can I go ahead and address that question
Yeah.
first? Really, we had talked about that early on, and Captain Rowan can fill in here as needed. But we're gonna be a little bit looser with our schedule base, and really that's gonna be up to the members of the council to kind of decide on their own schedule. If there's business to be had, then we can have meetings more frequently. But if there's no business and we haven't completed objectives until we give ourselves two months to do that, then we're open to that as well. We don't have an iron forge schedule that we have to meet like monthly or bi-weekly or anything like that. Really, it's open to the council to determine how often we need meetings.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking along those lines, how flexible it could or might be. It seemed like I didn't attend all the fire adaptive committee meetings, but quite a few of them. A lot of them didn't seem like there was a lot accomplished, or, it's more of a formality, show up, say hi and talk about a couple of things, but that's my major concern with myself, and I wouldn't have any problem with that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the formality of that. That's one of the things that I'd like to address also. You notice that I moved the podium out. I really want to make this more of a collaboration of, we're all just here to talk about some items and try to work on things and make assignments, more than this very procedural call captain up to give a report to the committee and just for the sake of writing some numbers down, et cetera. This is a very much more loose structure for Firewise and from my standpoint, so that we can all just be collaborative. Like, let's talk about the things that really matter. Let's make objectives for the things that really make a difference and not continue to rehash the same things that we've rehashed for the last 20 times. It was a lot of my frustration with the Fire Adaptive Committee. Although we did a ton of great work and I'm very thankful for that. I just really would like to get away from that structure and just be more collaborative in the way that we do things.
Just to back up a second, or reiterate whatever the proper word is, but the DSO is done, signed, sealed, delivered. That's the rule of the land right now, right? So, and Firewise is there a process to join Firewise, or do we just say, hey, we're Angel Fire, we want to join up, and then you start working through?
So that was the process of assessment. Everyone that came to that Firewise day, that was to get the Firewise assessment, which I'm going to present today. And then after that, we'll send it to Mary Stuber. I don't know if she's going to have Justin or who review it, and then it goes to, George Ducker, and out of their Santa Fe office, then to NFPA. And then after they say yay or nay, if they say yay, then we go on their website and we start going to business. We're gonna help you guys with everything, all the steps possible. And if I may interject something too, I know you don't want to be the chair, but I think you'd be a good person for the chair, and maybe have a vice chair. Maybe Brian wants to do like a vice chair thing in case you have to step out and he has to step in. But like Chief said, we're gonna be like flexible with you guys. So we're gonna help you guys through, even though we're not voting members, we'll help you guys. And it's gonna be informal. It's not like, hey, we have to do this, we have to have, this and that. And then, Chief talked about some bylaws, but I'll let him get into that. But yeah, I think, Mr. Laverty, you'd be a good candidate for that.
Well, I think my interest and I remember all those times sitting at the bottom of the pass over the last couple of years, and I look over at the Taos Pine sign and it says, "We are a Firewise community." And I said,
Yeah.
Angel Fire is the big dog in town. Why aren't we the Firewise community?
Yeah.
So
Shouldn't we be?
can I add a little bit to Chris's discussion on what Firewise requires? There are 5 steps to become a Firewise community, to be recognized by the National Firewise Program. And then there are 2 major things that have to happen annually to maintain that certification. So the assessment is one of them. Having a committee is one of them. Having a plan of what you want to do based on your assessment is one of them. And having an annual event is a part of it. And the most important part is putting all of this into their portal, into their database. There is also a requirement to spend per capita a certain amount of money, so the population times this amount of money, but all of your time, etc., all of the time for people participating in your annual event can be used as part of that match, but any money that you spend, you have to track and report it. So that's kind of the requirements to get into the program. And then to maintain the program, it's the annual event and the portal. And so keeping those 2 things up. So I just want to be clear that Firewise does have a recognition. It is a process, and you have to stay up with it annually to stay in the program.
Yeah, I just want to mention, like, all of those things we already have covered, and that's part of the challenge when I took this job is it was a bad word to say Firewise around this community. For some reason, it had a kind of a negative connotation. But through all the effort for the Fire Adaptive Committee and everything else we've done, Defensible Space Ordinance, we're kind of already there. The hours participated in, I believe we can use hours with our SLASH program as well.
Yes.
And all the stuff that we do with Wildland, all of Lindsay Reed's position, all of her community efforts. We're gonna already do annual events anyways, and just calling it a Firewise or calling it some other community interest program is really the only difference. So we really have all things required to do that. We just need organization, and I think this is a great opportunity to do that.
Frankly, I see, as we said, the DSO is done. I see the job, next step, and maybe Firewise's, and I presume Firewise's is promoting that and educating people. And I mean, I think I suggested to Lindsay one time that you start in Cimarron when you have the Burma shave signs, like from the old days, where people see that and they're home in Dallas and they're thinking about the golf course or whatever, and they're not thinking about the woods here in Angel Fire until Ruidoso blows up or Mora blows up or whatever. And I think most of the people that I've talked to in our neighborhood, Brazos and around, once you get them thinking about it, they say, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. I got to clean my woods. I got to do this. I got to do that." But it ought to be on every water bill coming from Angel Fire and every promotional thing on the board and on the emails and all the different things, just to keep reminding people that, how important this is.
Yeah, well, and some of what you're talking about is why we're doing Firewise. It allows us to advertise in the newspapers to get that, hey, we're changing, we're doing something different, we're doing Firewise. So I think a couple of things. The previous committee did their first Tuesday of the month. That is not required. So if any of you are worried about being chair,
I would look to, Captain Romo and Lindsay and Chief Vance for when kind of the next meeting needs to be. There's going to be, really no modification to the DSO upcoming. If there's something that gets considered as part of Firewise, we may look at some home hardening language that may or may not need to come in. But those are really the big things that we need to have. We need to have community meetings to put us on the path for Firewise. And then we look at that adoption as part of our outreach process. It's certainly not the only thing we're gonna do,
Sure.
but it's a big part of it for this
Well,
upcoming
and
year.
that's why I think you're confirming what my assumption was, and I just wanted to put it out as an assumption that I wasn't really quite sure what Firewise meant, and other than that,
There are a couple other things, evacuation routes, are really big on our list as well. We need to address that and, whether that's gonna be part of the defensible space ordinance or if that's gonna be part of another doctrine or other resolution or something we present to committee, that's a really high on our priority list. Lindsay has several other things, on our priority list to talk about, but really the first step in doing that is creating a committee. And that's kind of the next step after Captain Romo's assessment, is to create that committee, make sure that we have a chair. We do have a motion on the table. I'd like to hear your thoughts about what you think about that. Do you have any objections or anything to add to that? Would you be willing to serve as a vice chair, that type of thing?
I think vice chair would be good for me, yeah, because
like I said, my only concern is, been working for a long time and finally getting to the stage where we can travel and start doing things and, it's trying to make priorities of those. But still, we're here 95% of the time, so when I'm here, I don't have any problem participating and being involved.
Vice chair is a great idea. One of my other committees has that, and it gets used because sometimes the chair's got to be gone and we still need to conduct business. So I think it would be a great idea to figure out which one of you wants to be chair and which wants to be vice chair and move forward.
Would make any difference to me,
yeah, I'm fine with that. I have a lot of different obligations and every day is different.
Yeah, and mine is too, but you're still
But I'm here.
making a living and whatnot, and unfortunately, you keep making your living, you pay social security, I'm fine.
Yes.
I tell my kids that all the time.
To address our quorum issue, we wanted to keep the committee rather small also, not have too many members, because then you have to have the required number for a quorum. So there is a motion on the table currently, correct? So that.
I second the motion. President, vice president.
Well, for the vice president, we'll have
Secretary
to
and
put,
treasurer.
No.
we'll have to do vice president on the
That's
next.
the motion.
Well, no, not just a separate motion, but the next agenda, because we didn't have
Oh,
that
okay.
on this. But we can definitely vote on the chairman, so.
Okay.
Sounds like everybody votes for Mike.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, item 2, appointing a secretary.
I think we should do Martha because she did a good job and she's got her computer there and everything. She's all set up.
She can't say no right now.
Now,
She did already agree to do.
she did.
She said.
Awesome.
We've got it in writing too.
Second that.
Okay, so who was the first?
Second.
I made the motion to have Martha be the committee secretary.
All right, and Brian, you second?
Yes.
All right,
Need to bring anything up on computer?
Yeah, I gave it to you guys to bring up.
are we moving on?
Did you ever send it to me or not?
The assessment?
Send it to-
Ileana has it. I sent it this
I'll
morning.
put it up. Let me grab it.
But do you wanna handle that?
Yeah, the vice chair, we voted on that.
Oh,
Not
that's-
yet, that's not-
Oh, the next agenda, I thought we were gonna add it. So I didn't bring it up, but I'll give the committee. This is the community assessment that I came up with, during the walkthrough event, we had an H5, I'll let it forward to share. So a lot of things, we used the template from NFPA, which is a requirement, the 5 steps, which Mary, Stuber, kind of alluded to earlier. So if you want to bring up, the PDF and we'll go through everything. And it's pretty elaborate document, like 50 pages, but, it's just a template for us to use, the committee to use, the community to use as, something like where to find a go-to be all not just, hey, we're gonna look for the CWPP. So table of contents, community, contact information. That would be, the chair of the committee we just voted on. That's why it's in yellow when we go to the next page, but I'll add all that stuff in. The planner, my information, introduction, definition of home ignition zone, characteristics of severe case, wildfire threat, site description, just a basic layout of what we went through, what we looked at during that, assessment of Angel Fire and what we've done, our investments prior to that, because they did ask for that. And we'll add that into, our email that we sent to the state forestry for acceptance and approval. Go to the next slide. So there's the community contact information. Of course, we're gonna put the board chair, the vice chair, all the stuff we're gonna vote on. The community, the board members, all that. There's my contact information, and it does state, and I'll add, Chief Vance and Lindsay's, contact information in there as well. But it does state we're gonna be non-voting members on this document. Next. So introduction, how this all came to be, we had talked about it. It was kind of like Chief said, it was a bad word. Then we kind of presented it to everyone. The council and the whole fire adaptive committee voted on it. So we moved forward with it. And we had the community walk through on November 13th of 2025. BLM was there, Forest Service, State Forestry, Merino Valley, of course, Fire Adapted was there, Angel Fire Department. And we just looked at everything A through Z and Angel Fire, the roads, everything on our NFPA, voting sheet that we kind of will cover later on the document. And we looked at everything. We ended the tour at one of our burns, and we talked about what Angel Fire used to be and moving to the next level. We had over 1 million cubic feet of slash stockpiled, and we got rid of that. We're looking at not just burning it and chipping it, but other ways. Now that we got rid of that hazard in Angel Fire. CWPP, there was a big kind of update done in 2016 and then in 22, and then we'll have to look at it again in 27. But that's all kind of spelled in this document. CWPP, where to find it, there's a link and a QR code in case people want to go and look at that, for future reference. I don't know about you. I like a one place to go to, one-stop shop for stuff. I don't like looking around, and I think this document's going to cover the vast majority of what we're going to be doing with this committee. Next, kind of go into the definition of a home ignition zone, and that's through NFPA. That's standard. I didn't change anything. That's in our Angel Fire DSO. Next one. And then characteristics of severe case wildland fire threat. Just find fuels, weather, topography, wind speed, weather, all that stuff that goes into the fire behavior triangle. That's added in here. And again, this was NFPA. I didn't change any language, anything on that. Next. So kind of historic changes in the fire behavior that we've seen. We know, we don't get a lot of fires here in Angel Fire. If you look at, our historic numbers. But when we do, we're in a area where it's either gonna burn or not. So like Hermit's Peak, Calf Canyon, that was a very detrimental fire to us, and people, well, it didn't burn anything. Well, it hindered us, it got us prepared. We're in, ready state, ready, set, go, all that stuff. Direct impacts, economic, it really, impacted our economy, long-term kind of consequences, infrastructure change, forest and watershed damage, and to our neighbors. And we do hold that in the highest regards, our neighbors as well. Then the community involvement, it really did impact all our communities, and it did take the village to come together, state forestry, all our cooperators, and, I kind of discussed that. Guides for the homeowner, ready, set, go, living with fire. Oh, have to change that. But anyway, the link's there. It's on our state forestry website if you need to find it, but that link is compatible. Just go and click on it. Site description kind of talks about Angel Fire. you know, what's our population according to the 2024 census, best known, land long population, lodging, resorts, all our infrastructure, structures. You know, I know Justin Williams had an issue with maybe we weren't gonna be in compliance because we were over like 2,500 per, community per structure requirement for NFPA, but we're right under it. And then if you go into the document later on, it talks about what we're gonna do next. I think we're gonna break up some of the subdivisions and make them a Firewise community under the greater Angel Firewise community. That's where you guys come in. Next. So here's our investments that we currently have. So defensible space ordinance, all of us in the room, you know, we're a big proponent of that, you know, coming up with that. We didn't reinvent the wheel. It was all on WUI code. It was all from CWPP stuff, from NFPA. So we just kind of, I added that in there for the ordinance, where to find it. Next one. Slash program, you know, kind of our objectives, the village's investment in that, and then, you know, our program overview, where to find out more about the slash program, permit issues and all that stuff. Because believe it or not, we get a lot of people come in, they don't know how to do it, you know, but we're working with Manager Weir and with Lindsay. We're gonna send out some mailers, maybe have more events, get the word out, preach the gospel, if you will. Good neighbor policy. We have one in place, you know, Fire Adapted was a big proponent on that, but in part of our action plan, it's to promote it and let it be known on the next 5 years of our action plan. So assessments, we've done a lot of community assessments, you know, and we're trying to get everywhere where we have that information in one area. We have it in field maps. We have defensible, non-defensible, all that stuff in there, pictures, diagram. You know, we need to add it to one document, I think, where everyone can find it. I think we're looking at smart sheets and all that. And then entering everything into field maps, like if an IMT or maybe say forestry or someone comes and helps us, they have that at the tips of their finger. Grants, we've had a lot of grants. You know, there was NMAC, we're able to get a chipper here in Angel Fire. We're able to buy a UTV and a dump trailer, which is big, you know, getting around Angel Fire. And, you know, BLM, you know, it became rolling stock after the grant was over 1 year. But then, you know, Kyle Saad made an agreement with us in the state office. We would keep it in here as long as we're using it and make it available to anyone who needs it. So that's what we do. We brought it into our slash program and where we put that in our ordinance. We'll actually go on site to residents and chip, you know, 20 yards per each 2 acres they own in Angel Fire. So that was a good thing. We've chipped on your property. You know, we've chipped on just a bunch of people's, you know, landscapes. And when it's conducive, we'll do that. You know, when it's more conducive to bring the slash and burn it, it's, you know, we'll do that. The Ames grant, which Fire Adapted, you know, they came up and grabbed that. We were able to get Lindsay funded through that, which has been a big help in Angel Fire. And then VFA through State Forestry, we were able to get a wildland coordinator position. It helps fund my position. We were able to get that 3 years, not in a row, of course, but since 2022. And then we were able to get PPE and FFE, firefighting equipment, personal protective equipment for our firefighters. So that's a good thing as well there. Kind of the State Forestry link to that, added that. Next one is our YCC grant. And we're able to hire, you know, junior firefighters from the age of 18 to 25. Some of them went on to different, there's 5 minutes left in the meeting. We're able to get other jobs, you know, with other fire departments, other federal, state entities. Some of them we're able to absorb here within Angel Fire Department. We trained them through NIMS, you know, wildland structure firefighting. You know, we had events. They help us with Firewise events and fire management. They respond to EMS calls, fire calls, and how to properly rehab fire apparatus equipment. And there's more to it. That was just a little bit of it, but there's a website for that. Then some of the QR codes for Angel Fire was our website / program, our permit, our defensible space assessment. Click on the QR code and it brings up the link to our website. Some of the reference maps. And before I go on further, I think I'm just trying to roll through this, but is there any kind of questions? Yeah. I appreciate you guys. So the topographic map, there's Angel Fire, kind of 17,000 acres of land. So in the total annex of Angel Fire. Next. And then kind of a aerial image, you know, kind of see the fuel, the terrain, field types, you know, some stuff there, you know. I just wanted to give NFPA, because we know what Angel Fire is about. I wanted them to know who we are, where we're located, all that. Next slide. So right there, each of the little dots is a structure within Angel Fire. Each of the little houses, if it's green, orange, purple or red, those are some of the assessments we've done. And that's not what Lindsay has done, because this is off of field maps. Our program that we use for firefighting, you know, nationwide access, our firefighters have to that. But that's where I got to that point where I was telling you guys, we need to have everything integrated in the same place. So once we do get to that point, then, you know, Lindsay's plan is to get all her structure assessments integrated into field maps. Next slide. This one I pulled off of online. There's different kind of modeling systems you could get, and it kind of gives you a description of what fuel types are in Angel Fire. So kind of hard. I didn't have a perimeter layer in there yet. I was working with the Forest Service to add one. I'm not a GIS by no means, but pretty much what we're looking at is the majority of Angel Fire is a fuel model 5, brush, understory, and then the rest, you know, up in the higher terrain is a fuel model 9 and 10, which is like, you know, where you get into the mixed con and understory and all that. And that's pretty much situated on our west side, and then on our southwest side, of course, and then up towards the ski hill, which made it kind of a high priority value on the CWPP. Next slide. And a general location where we're at on the map. Next slide. And then this is pulled off the 2022 CWPP, kind of gives us a map of the area, you know, our wildland threat. And it does depict, of course, you know, the ski hill as that high side. And there are some other ones that are showing very high, but it's not showing on the map here. Go down. Again, the cars, communities at risk. So there's all those kind of subdivisions I was talking about that eventually we want to get them to Firewise. Once we get Angel Fire, that's going to be the center. And then after that, we're going to branch it out to those guys. So the assessment process, you know, we went through that. During that assessment process in Angel Fire, November 13th, all our cooperators gave us their unbiased opinion. I'm going to say I was kind of hurt, but it was needed. It was like, we're not done yet. Because I was like, wow, man, I know what I've done and what we've all done and what we burned and what we thinned. And I was like, we're in a good spot. And then they're like, no, you're not. And I was like, well, that's thousands of hours that I have into this. We have into this. But it did draw me back. Well, yeah, we're not done. We're here and we need to be up here. So, but it's a start, you know, it's all this DSO, all the language, all the man hours, woman hours we put into this. It's just, let's get credit for it, guys. So that's why we went and did that. So here's some of the observations we took. So we get a point system for everything from that form, and it's all in Appendix A. When we go into that, I'll show you, but pretty much this was the one we came up with, a 0 for a risk for ingress and egress. Main road, there is a lot of main roads kind of going into the Angel Fire. There is just one state highway, and that's 434 Mountain View Drive. But there is some credit we got there. Some risk points for the road width, too. And we'll explain all that later, but there's some recommendations for all these. Next slide. So we looked at fire service access, street signs, vegetation, and just know that, we're looking at all that. We're looking at how we could alert the public, Mary, the Forest Service, everyone says, I've told Chief's told me, we need evacuation route. What's the first thing? We can't thin all of Angel Fire in one shot, or it'll take years, hundreds of years. We need evacuation route to get everyone out, so. Defensible space, vegetation, talked about that. Next slide. And then here goes into that shrub group, that SH from the 40 fuel models. From that map kind of I showed you earlier, what we're kind of dealing with in Angel Fire fuel model. Next one. Kind of pictures, diagrams, and this was from the 40 and the Rothamel's 13 standard firefighting or fire behavior model. Go down. Then the timber group, which is, like I was saying, kind of on our southern area, western side of Angel Fire. Next slide. We looked at topography. We really can't change it, but we could change like where we're building new additions, new buildings, new that. We're going to work with our code enforcement, people in charge of that to, that was some of the recommendations. Areas of history with high fire occurrences. Yeah, we don't have a history of like a lot of fires, but the history we do have, they're pretty big. The Osha, Zia, the Hermit's Peak, Calf Canyon, all that stuff that impacted it. And then like a year, like this year, it's pretty dry. It could really impact us if we do get a start in here. Areas of unusual severe weather. We have that. We get a lot of the eddying from these mountains, the sangre, separation, adjacent structures. I thought we were pretty good, but again, most of the buildings were moderately separated, but, again, code would have to fall into that. Roofing materials, we're always preaching the gospel. And, I think when me and Lindsay go out there and do the assessment, they ask us about that, right? Where do we get the material? Where do we get the fireproof paint? And, before we were like, we'll Google it. But I think now that we're getting more into it, we're getting that info to them. Contractors, what contractors are out there to thin and dispose of the slash and the residual on their property. Dead and down, we covered that. We're talking about, hey, you need to get some of your dead and down out of there. That's a high fire hazard. Everything we just give them a good plan. And then also we've been talking, Jake Crane's on the committee, the village council, not committee, and he's talking about like lowering your insurance rates and all that for if you get these assessment, we're going to give you a plaque. We've talked about all that, and I think it's good recognition what we're doing out there. Building construction, setback from slope, again, code, enforcement, we'll work on that to better Angel Fire. Available fire protection, we're looking at our water sources, pre-identifying that, our GPM flow on our hydrants, we're doing all that. A lot of that was neglected, and Chief Vance, has really got in the fire department, changing a different direction, checking all that, making sure they're identified. Utilities, most of the utilities were underground. However, our main transformer line, main power comes from Brazil all the way to Agua Fria and in the Angel Fire, and that's above ground, of course. But we do work with Kit Carson to make sure they're maintaining the easement. And then, we've had other fires, especially one in the canyon in like 2010 in Cimarron Canyon, where it came outside that easement because it's higher than the easement length, or width. So totals for the risk assessment was 71. And that was based off of like the low 80s from the Forest Service, the State Forestry. They're the only ones who actually turned in their notes. So we went with that. I gave everyone ample opportunity to turn in their stuff, but those are those communities we're going to target next. The communities at risk due to the CWPP. Start with the very high stuff, Back Basin, Bell Loop, El Camino Real. And Back Basin, I was thinking, there's not a lot of people who are there. There's not a lot of structure, but, we're gonna do our due diligence and maybe combine, maybe Bell Loop with Back Basin. It's just for future reference talk, but it definitely is in there. Then preparing, for wildfire, it starts with you. There's fire adapted communities. There's more on that, fireadapted.org, which we're kind of getting out of that, and going to the Firewise aspect of it. Firewise communities. There's the 5 steps we're talking about. Invest a minimum $2 per capita per local Firewise action for the year. So that's per each dwelling structure in Angel Fire. And then we have to submit the application, all that, like Mary was talking about. Risk assessments, go down. Building space, structure, ignitability, direct flame impingement, firebrand ignition, ready, set, go. Just a whole array of, and then we even, a few years ago, I think Mary gave a seminar on post-fire recovery. So I was like, I never really care. I'm more of the firefighter. Yeah, I'm gonna do it and not worry about it. But now that I'm in this role, hey, I think we need to have that. So there's after wildfirenm.org, the link on the MNERD page, Energy, Minerals, Natural Resources. And then again, talks about our community wildfire protection plan. And just know that that was part of it, was to become a Firewise community. One of their kind of action items that they gave us in 2022. More resources, Mexico forestry, their vision, all that is in there. NM fire info. Codes and standards, there's NFPA, there's international code, there's Village of Angel Fire, Defensible Space Ordinance, and then successful wildfire mitigation, what some of the structures kind of were before and what they could look like, just example of that. And then kind of the next steps, what we're gonna do, submit this to Mary and her folks, and then state forestry, the state office reviews it, sends it to NFPA, and then it's a yay or nay. And then Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not saying like we're a shoe-in, but have you ever seen like them deny a community? Yeah, me either. So I think based off of this and what we've done, partnership with everyone, I think it's a no-brainer that we're gonna get the status. And it's not just like, hey, we're Firewise, we're moving to those next steps. Is action items, kind of prioritization, establish effective evacuation routes for the community and make them known. Yeah, we have a map and it's going around, but does the community know? So that's why I added that in there. Purchase new communication tower and new repeater system. Village of Angel Fire, which was on the CWPP, targeted that. We're in the process of that. Support phase 2 and 3 of the Angel Fire DSO. Promote community wildfire preparedness education. How to develop better building codes, home hardening. Help coordinate, implement chipper days, slash days for Angel Fire. And I just want to kind of reiterate, like back in the day, like Linda Ford, right, from Calpine, Joe Staling and that, they had a committee, Firewise committee, but they also went out there and they were pulling slash and to the roads, and we have a chipper day. So I kind of want to follow that. We do it on our own, but I think that if we could get the community involved, and of course they're not going to be the ones throwing in there's rules and regs, but to get them more involved, I think we need to do that and police that. Introduce and implement the good neighbor policy. Purchase signboards for roadside messages, related to wildfire risk evaluations, etc. Help create this core team update. Help with the core team to update the CWPP in 2027. So Lindsay, kind of brought that one up, and I was like, yeah, I didn't think of that because, it's coming. Why can't that be an action item? Not just to get credit, but I think it needs to be in there because I think, that core team is probably going to be everyone in the room to do that. So, forming a community emergency response team. Me and Chief could talk with chief of police and, about that one and maybe having something more cut and dry, and baby steps, I know chief came in and changed a lot of things for the better, but, I think we need to get to that. Then keep smoke impacts to community down, and store HIPAA filters at our new fire station. So we're actually building a new fire station, and Lindsay kind of brought up the other day about the HIPAA filters. We get a lot of those when we have like burns in that from the forest field and that, but it'd be, what was the grant?
It's a community, smoke-free community grant, and they provide like facility filters like that. So there's like rooms and people could go sit on days where we're burning or there's a wildfire or something like that.
Yeah, I think for the Black Lake burn that we did, I don't think it impacted us that much, but we still had that plan and we still had a bunch of filters in case someone needed. But instead of like Forest Guild or Forest Service, we'd have them here in Angel Fire already pre-identified. Fire protection summary. Kind of went into that. Our reference materials, everything I used. And then land fire is that program that I used for that modeling of for our field models. And then the appendices, if you want to go down. Kind of there was Anthony Martinez, his severity checklist that we went off and did that day on the 13th, and kind of his what he thought of Angel Fire. If you want to go to the next one, he gave us I think 89, which is, it's still in that high hazard. Because if you could look at the chart, it says low hazard 39, moderate 40 to 69, high hazard 70 to 112, extreme 113 plus. So we got an 89, and then if you want to go down, state forestry gave us, go down, 84, and then go down to ours. Then I gave us one more. 71. So if you divide all that, it comes up to the overall risk rating that we received. Some of the pictures of our structures here in Angel Fire. Kind of funny, I put all the good ones in there. Go down. Oh, NFPA is not listening. You guys know that house, right? Yeah. She's actually going to be our secretary. So, one more down. Some pictures of our burns that we've done behind Station 3 and then in our big slash file. We actually went and visited that site location a day after, and it was just neat to show what we've been doing in Angel Fire. Of course, I get my directive too from Chief and BJ Lindsay, our mayor. He's like, I don't want you to smoke out the village, so you gotta look at that. We're gonna have a inversion intrusion the next day. It's a big deal. Working with the environment department and our coordination, with all our cooperators and let them know we're burning and they don't roll the cavalry over here, when they see smoke. There's a picture of our engine captain, Angela Ledoux, or engine bot, helping me with an assessment. He kind of went through the same training I had Lindsay kind of helped her with last year, right?
Yeah, last
Yeah,
year.
and then got her to able to do our assessments and that. And just nothing but kudos to those guys, because if it wasn't for them, we couldn't be here, What's that?
I said, I know that house, that was mine.
Oh, yeah. Hey, everyone's in there. I'm not trying to get those points, So there's a picture, if you guys hadn't seen it before, like our solid waste, building. That was a priority. We moved all that stuff out of the driveway, got it out of there, burned it, chipped it. And then there's the after. It's totally different, 1 million cubic feet of slash, There's a picture of us for that Firewise day that we had here in Angel Fire, the assessment day. It was just a good feeling to have all our partners, know they have our back. Our guys go out and chip. There's some pictures. And then on days that we can't burn, we're chipping there at the station, getting rid of all that stuff. Repurposing the chips, we put them at the dog park. We gave them to like Taos. We've given them to the local schools for bed, for 4-H, for their beds, for their animals and all that. And then our ACI, and I'll tell you, the permitting on that is way harder than just burning on the ground. And you gotta look into all that and gotta have a opacity test where they come out and just view it, watch it for 8 hours straight, just. If they are watching, they, you know, they look at all the smoke and opacity. It's crazy. I wouldn't want to do that. Some pictures of us, going around. I mean, sometimes if it's more conducive for us to go on foot with a truck to go pick up, we'll do that instead of, you know, bringing in a big grapple truck and wasting, you know, the driver's time. And then we take it to our station to burn and chip. Next one. Oh, that's it. 68 pages, sorry. Well, that's it. Any question?
Didn't you make it 6, 7? I mean,
Oh, mother. No.
I do have, would you consider utilizing the Viper Planet analysis on fire risk for this?
I did not.
So a couple, I think 2023, the National Forest Foundation worked with the Forest Service to develop a fire modeling risk assessment for the Enchanted Circle,
Okay.
called Viper Planet. So I'll send you the link and all that information, but I did capture a lot of screenshots for Anglo Fire when it came out.
Great.
And it has a really specific, it's an interactive program where you can adjust values. So the values that I was adjusting was for, you know, high residency and recreation.
Okay.
And then it shows fire risk based on that. But you can put different value systems in and get different responses. So, I'll send that to you, and I think that will really
Yeah.
kind of help build the picture of why we are still at a pretty high risk. And that's the kind of modeling they used, the land fire data, but they used a lot of different data, and they ran, you know, the millions of fire potentials,
I got you.
and that's how they came up with this
Oh, yeah.
assessment. And it's high dollar stuff that we don't always have. And it was neat that they, you know, had the millions of dollars to do it
Right.
for our area, so we might as well be using it.
Yeah, yeah, that's great.
Okay.
You know, I appreciate that. You know, like me and Chief talked, we're like, let's add this, let's add that. And then we're like, hey, let's just get enough to, you know, get us this certification, but it's a working document. Then we'll add that stuff in there. But yeah, I appreciate that, Mary.
Yeah, it should be hard to pull down the restoration on it and just make it 70 pages.
It's their document now.
And then my other thought, and this is my first time to be exposed to your plan, and I appreciate that. But the Forest Service has a program that they call the Good Neighbor Policy. And it is a program where they go to local governments and create an agreement to have that local government do work on Forest Service lands. So it's similar in the concept that you're talking about, having a grantee come in to do work on the grantors. But if Angel Fire is considering entering a Good Neighbor authority with the Forest Service, you might find a different name for your program, like Help Your Neighbor, or, you know,
Yeah,
something
I
like
got
that,
you.
where,
I didn't do
you
that.
don't have the confusion with that Forest Service.
Yeah.
great minds think alike. It's the same concept, just on a grand scale rather than an individual scale.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a great thought.
Well, that would work on some of our border areas, you know, Roswell.
Right. I mean, right up there by
Yeah.
Marks, it would be a great place for Angel Fire to actually do work on Forest Service land. So if that's a possibility, I might think about finding a different name for the program you're talking about, just so that you don't have that.
We're gonna add Angel Fire in front of it.
Yeah.
A great evacuation route would be right down Apache Pass, and it'd save me about 30 minutes going to Taos.
You're gonna go that way anyway. Yeah, good all talk, and, you know, I hope you guys appreciate the plan, put a lot of, hours into
I
it.
just want to step in here and I want to, give Captain Romo some kudos and, commend him for all the work done. Great job. you know, not only do they do all the work that nobody else wants to do by inhaling the smoke and burning all the slash that we create in the village, but he does go above and beyond. I think he works behind the scenes, and a lot of people don't see this kind of effort that we're doing on top of billing for all the deployments that we do and everything else. And I think this speaks to the village's dedication to Firewise. Also, something that he didn't mention is we were unsuccessful in our AIM grant application this time, so Lindsay Reed's position was not funded. I'm going to council tonight to ask that the fire department picks up the funding for her position so that we keep her on and we continue this work. So the village manager, the mayor and council have all made this full dedication. We're all full speed ahead for Firewise, and we're really dedicated to making this a better place overall. Now we have a roadmap. Now we know, now we have direction, and I think part of the issues that we've had before, there wasn't really clear direction about where we're going. And so now we have a blueprint in front of us. Now we just have the work ahead of us to do. The hard part's over. But this is a long-term plan. Getting Firewise designated is just the beginning of the work, but now we know the plan to follow. And so that's our goal of the Firewise Committee.
Right.
Yeah, keep it going. You
Yes,
know, if you have anything, Kevin, from your standpoint of, you know, anything like Basil area or like something that's gonna help us out there. You know, I know you're doing a plan for Laverty. That'd be great, you know, just add it to the document, make it 100 pages.
you're gonna have to take pictures of that house. I got it stucco.
Okay.
I got it stucco this last summer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I think that was on the list.
Well, it's
Good
done.
job. Good job.
Before and after pictures.
And I'll send that to everyone, after I kind of put everything that we need to add in there, the new committee, and then, we'll send it to Ms. Stuber.
Any further input on Captain Reynolds' presentation?
If not, we have one more agenda item. If you take a look, number 4, formation of short-term and long-term goals. Obviously, we've already identified one for next meeting. We'll have to have a vice chair agenda item. Any other items we want to document now?
I have a few things, so I was thinking maybe pushing those next meeting. But we did kind of want to, kind of propose either a couple of purpose statements for us, or either if you guys wanted to write one, or if you wanted to listen to what we have, whatever you're thinking on that. Just so we kind of know, you know, what we're working under the grounds of, right? So I have a few if y'all want to hear them. Few ideas.
Good place to start.
Okay, so Firewise USA has their own purpose statement. It's pretty broad. So I toned it down in 3 different options here. The first one being the purpose of the Firewise Committee is to support a fire adapted community by coordinating education, mitigation projects, and partnerships that reduce wildfire risk and strengthen community resilience over time. That's the first one. They're all kind of a mouthful, so I apologize. And then the second one, the purpose of this committee is to identify where wildfire risks are, prioritize mitigation actions, and engage residents in practical steps that reduce the threat of wildfire to lives, property, and natural resources. That is my shortest one. And the third one, which is, to be biased, my favorite. The Firewise Committee exists to help our community prepare for wildfire by encouraging shared responsibility, supporting defensible space and home hardening, and fostering informed, proactive residents. We don't have to make a decision on anything right now. I can send you my ideas. I think I probably have a few more written down elsewhere that I just forgot to put in my paper today. That I can send you.
To Stephen's ideas.
Okay, yeah, no, I can send those to you guys and then we can review those for the next meeting.
Okay.
Some of the committees that I've been exposed to don't necessarily have a mission statement, don't necessarily have a purpose statement. And so I think sometimes that can get lost in the sauce of like, what's the purpose of us meeting today? And, it might be a good reminder just to kind of develop whatever that is that you guys see fit for what our purpose statement is. If you want to add change to the lead or give some suggestions, do that. I think we should add that onto the next agenda. The only other thing that I have is, the committee will be subject to, new bylaws that will be presented soon. This is a rough draft. Ileana provided this. I can also share this with you guys, in an email form, but feel free to look at that. It's basically all the stuff that we do, that we loosely follow Robert's rules and things like that. We start off by saying pledge allegiance and those type of formality type of things. We'll be subject to those, to some extent, just to make sure that we're following all procedural rules.
Have we talked, or has there been any, talk about when the next meeting might be? I mean, we've talked about the overall meeting schedule, but I guess we gotta have some meetings to get to the point where we decide what we're gonna do maybe on an annual basis.
Yeah, I mean, whatever works with your guys' schedules, we can figure out. I would think maybe, because we have a few actionable items for the next one, maybe doing it sooner rather than later, and appointing the vice chair as well, so.
Question, do we need, the plan approval before you submit it? Do we need the Firewise, approval for you to submit that plan?
We need so the committee members in there definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, if you guys wanna look at your schedules and Captain Romo just kind of come up with a date, that works for you. If you guys wanna look at your schedules and see what works for you, and maybe we can have the secretary here as well. We'll come up with a date within the next couple of weeks,
Yeah,
just so that we can, submit the plan in, to Firewise and kind of get that ball rolling.
For me, Tuesdays and Thursdays work.
Tuesdays and Thursdays are generally good for people.
okay.
Just before we look at dates, so vice chair is gonna be agenda item, reviewing, adopting, whatever we're gonna call that, the Captain Romo's assessment by the committee, and the application, is that basically what item 2 will be? Is there any work left to do? Obviously, we're gonna have to pick a new name for the good neighbor policy, but is there any revision or consideration of the committee before that goes off to legal, Lindsay, that you're aware of, or?
It's been passed to Mark.
It's
Manley.
been passed, yeah, so we, yeah, he was supposed to get me his, recommendations that we spoke about the last fire adaptive meeting. My emails have gone unanswered thus far.
So before putting it on the agenda to approve it or disapprove it, we'll have to consult with him too, and I'll get with.
Yeah.
You might double check with him, cause I sent him messes of emails. And finally, he went to his computer. I had to storm into his office. And, he went to his computer and he goes, oh, there you are. I've had computer problems. I thought, okay. So you might wanna,
Yeah,
Reach
we'll
out.
we'll get on that, especially because that's an actionable step and he's part of the committee, so.
Well, and that's committee level, all that work product still has to go to NAN, legal counsel for the village, and counsel for formal adoption, so.
Yeah.
Those are the big 3 things, so maybe let's give you some time to maybe get his responses, and then let you tell us when you're ready for that next committee meeting, unless
that's
there's a problem with that. We might as well have that next meeting if we can get that next step accomplished.
Okay, yeah, and I also feel like maybe if I go back, cause you post these on YouTube, right? All of
Yes.
them. I could also maybe go back and kind of transcribe what he said to us in the meeting if I can't get a hold of him.
Sure.
And then kind of have that, and then we can pass that on to legal if it's approvable here, if we
Okay.
need to do that. So, cause you kind of laid them out already.
Do we have to approve of these once they're approved by council? This is the rough draft of that. They're gonna be, put before council to be voted in, right, for committee rules? And then after that, does the Firewise committee have to adopt them?
This has already gone through the majority process. Tonight would be the final approval unless it gets continued, and there's a high possibility.
And second question was, do we have to adopt those as?
Oh, yes, it'll be a blanket for all of our committees.
Okay,
But the
Okay.
committees have to individually adopt it, or council adopting it will push it down to all?
Yes, the second one.
So you won't have to do formal adoption of that.
okay,
And you'll still do your mission statement and all that.
okay.
So then Lindsay, I guess if, take a week or so and figure out if we can get answers on the good neighbor, because I would just as soon at the next committee meeting, let that be
Yeah.
something that they can work on, so.
Okay,
The friendly neighbor.
Friendly neighbor policy.
that's, yeah. I'm gonna write that down.
Aggressive neighbor policy.
Saving your.
Educating the neighbor policy.
Cooperative neighbor policy, maybe we should just encourage the cooperative.
About bridges, not trees.
That's mission statement.
The trespassing neighbor policy.
Get on.
I like the education.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, I'll get on that and then I can get you an agenda for the next meeting as well.
Sounds good.
And then do we have any other items?
That's the last agenda item, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks for adjourned.
Congratulations, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike.
Congratulations.
Hey.